Welcome to Research Writing for Clients Part 1. My name is Carrie Meyer and I'm an accredited genealogist. So the first thing I want to talk about is that writing for a client can be different than writing for yourself. So a lot of times we do research for ourselves. We know what we want to find out and we write it up in the format that we want to write it up in. So doing it for a client can be a little bit different. So today I want to talk about some of the things that I feel will be the most effective in helping you to be effective in your writing and in your presentation to your client. So one of the things, just a second, one of the things that I feel that is the most important when working with a client is understanding what your client's research goals actually are. A lot of times as researchers, we kind of get on automatic and we go, I have got this. I know who I'm going to search. I know what I need to find. I'm going to find out everything I can about this person. I'm going to identify their parents. I'm going to find out when and where they were born, when they died, who they married, who all their children were, and then you just get to work finding out everything. But that isn't always what your client wants from you. So before you get started, you really need to find out what your client wants. So you'll get different types of clients. For example, you'll get the kind that is a little more open in what they're a little more vague in what their research goals are, or they're willing to give you more leeway. For example, you'll get the client who says something along the lines of, I would like you to research my grandma Butler. I want you to extend her pedigree as far back as you could possibly get it in the agreed upon time frame. Now, I don't care which line you do. I don't care if you trace her mother's line or her father's line, just whichever one you can get back the furthest in the allotted amount of time. So those clients are kind of fun because you have a little more leeway, like I said, and you can choose a little bit which direction you're going to take. But you still had a specific objective in mind. They told you to find out who the ancestors were and extend the pedigree back as far as you can. Okay, you'll also get the clients who want something really specific. For example, you'll get somebody who wants to join a lineage society, something like Sons of the American Revolution or Colonial Dames. Now, these people, they need something a lot more specific. They need actual documentation that proves that they belong to a certain lineage so that they're actually able to join these societies. So your client is going to be really frustrated if they're expecting you to go through and find documentation proving that they belong to this line, proving that their ancestor really fought in the Revolutionary War so they can join Sons of the American Revolution, and you've gone off on a tangent and you started researching their great-grandfather, and instead of just getting the documentation that verified the links between them and the soldier, you found out, hey, great-grandpa had 3 wives and 17 children between them. Isn't this exciting? And you give them a whole research report about all this extra stuff. Okay, they're going to be really frustrated with that. They don't need it. That's not what they paid you for. So you really need to make sure you're paying attention to what your client's actual goal is. And it's the same thing with the Grandma Butler client, the one who wanted you to extend their pedigree. They hired you to extend the pedigree, not to find out who great-grandfather's 3 wives were and all of their second cousins or third cousins. So please be aware that you need to pay attention to what your client actually wants from you. So the next thing, number 2, that you want to pay attention to once you've figured out what it is the client actually wants you to do for them, the next thing you're going to want to find out is how they want you to present the evidence that you have found. So you're going to get about 3 different types. You're going to get the people who just will be happy with a cited pedigree chart and cited family group sheet along with document images. They just want copies of the documents that prove it, and they'll be happy with that. They don't want to spend their money having you take the time to write it all up. Then you have two different types of actual research reports that you could write. There is the narrative report. This tells the story of an individual. Facts are cited, but there is not a whole lot of discussion about how you did your research or how you reached your conclusions. And then there's the actual research report, which is more academic, and you spend time actually explaining what documents you used, what evidence those documents presented, and then giving your analysis on what these documents actually prove. So before we get started on actually talking about writing the research papers, I want to give you a couple little tips and tricks to get started that I think help with the process. So I think it's very important to include a research log. A research log is just kind of a list or journal of your research process, where you've looked, what you found, what you didn't find. This just helps keep you organized, helps you to remember where you looked so that you don't have to go back later and, oh my gosh, I know I found that. Now, where was it? And oh shoot, I forgot to write down which book I got that out of. And then you have to go back and redo things. So it just saves you time and helps keep you organized. Another thing that I think is important is citations. Now, I know this sounds like I'm getting out of order, because usually you worry about citations when you've finished writing a paper. So I think it's kind of important to, as I said, when you're doing the research log, keep track of not only take notes on what you found, but where you found it. So this is a good place to kind of do your citations. It's nice to get your citations done at the beginning, because when you're actually in the process of researching, you're right there and all the information is at your fingertips. You know what database you're looking at, you know what library you're at, you know what books you've been through, and you can get the information all down right then and there so that you don't have to go back and find it again. And a tip I like to offer is to make something like a citations quick chart, is what I call it. So making citations can be kind of complicated, and to be professional, you want things to be consistent. So if you are not really comfortable with citations, I recommend getting Elizabeth Shown Mill's book. It's called Evidence Explained, and it gives you lots of examples on how to create citations for different genealogical records. So if you look over here at the citations quick chart, you'll see what I mean. So you think about the records that you use a lot. So let's say that you go through and you say, I use census records a lot. I use probate records a lot. I use online newspapers. I use indexes. Whatever you use a lot of, go through and make yourself kind of pre-made citations. And so for example, if you look at the census record here, so everything should be pretty much the same. The only thing on a census record that's going to change is what year the census was, what actual person you're focusing on, what microfilm number it originally came from, and what town or city or state that they were in. So just leave yourself some blanks. So leave yourself a blank to insert the year, but then you put US Census. Leave the blank for the town and the state. Then population schedule, because that's going to be there every time, and then just leave a little blank so you remind yourself to put the number in. So this is just one of my tips. So make a chart to help you, and that way when you actually get to writing, it saves you a lot of time, and it helps keep your formatting consistent. So I hope that you find that helpful, and I think it should help get things moving a little bit faster when it's actually time to write your paper. So I hope that you will join me for part 2 and part 3 in learning how to write your narrative report and your research report. Thank you for watching.